What if your best friends vanished after a game night, leaving behind a locked car, uneaten food, and frozen shoes in the snow? Would you think they ran? Or were they running from something? Yuba County, 1978. 5 young men. Never made it home. But the real horror? They weren't lost. They were led. Jackie, Bill, Ted, Gary, and Mike. They weren't just friends, they were brothers in every way but blood. Each of them lived with challenges, developmental delays, mental health struggles, and quiet routines they rarely broke. They weren't wild. They weren't reckless. They were safe with each other. That night they'd won. The basketball game in Chico lit them up. You could see it in Mike's eyes. He was smiling the whole way back, his mom would say. And he promised he'd be back before bed. But they never came back. Not that night. Not ever. Jackie's mother always told him, "Don't go past the highway after dark. The mountains get cold fast." Bill's dad left him with strict instructions. Straight home after the game. Mike had a job interview the next morning. He laid out his clothes before he left. A neatly folded blue shirt, still untouched on the bed. They had snacks. They had plans. They had no reason to head up into the Sierra Nevada mountains. So why did they? Their car, a turquoise Mercury Montego, was found days later. Not on the route home. Not near gas stations or stops. But 70 miles away, up a desolate logging road. The tires weren't stuck. The battery worked. The tank was half full. No damage. No sign of struggle. Just an eerie silence in the trees, and the car keys missing. Inside were maps, snacks, still in their wrappers, and Gary's favorite song, "You're My Best Friend," still queued up on the 8-track. They didn't just vanish. They went somewhere on purpose. But where? And why didn't they come back? Then, weeks later, a forest ranger stumbled onto something. A trailer, half buried in snow. And inside, one of the boys, wrapped in sheets, bones exposed, shoes placed neatly at the door. But something was missing. His feet. What if the person you loved most died just feet away from help? What if they waited and waited until the waiting killed them? Inside a snow-locked trailer, hidden in the mountains, one of the missing boys was found. But what was missing from him was far more terrifying than what was found. Ted was always gentle, soft-spoken, childlike in many ways, but fiercely loyal. If you were scared, Ted would sit with you until you weren't. He loved jokes, bubble gum, and his mom's meatloaf. He didn't like the cold. He didn't like being alone. So how did he end up there? Alone, frozen, starved. His body was found curled up on a thin mattress, wrapped in 8 army blankets, every rib visible, every bone, screaming. His feet were gone, possibly chewed off by animals or something else. But here's what haunts people. The trailer had food, canned rations, enough to survive. But they were never opened. There was fuel, books, a propane tank that could have given heat, but it was untouched. Ted survived inside that trailer for up to 13 weeks. But he never lit a fire. He never ate. He never tried to leave a note. No footprints. No message. Just silence. Why? Back when the boys went missing, search crews swept the forest. Helicopters, dogs, snowmobiles. But no one checked the trailer. Not at first. It was 20 miles off course. Uphill. Remote. You'd have to know it was there to find it. And yet someone did know. The trailer's window had been smashed. A hand had reached inside to unlock it. Someone chose that spot. And Ted wasn't the only one there. Near the mattress was a gold watch. Not Ted's. None of the 5 families recognized it. On the table, ration cans, military issue. One had been opened neatly using a P-38 can opener. The kind only soldiers know how to use. Ted didn't have military training. Neither did the others. So, who opened the can? Who wrapped Ted in blankets? Who stayed with him and then left? Was it one of the boys? Was it someone else? Imagine the cold, numb fingers, snow crushing the roof, The air inside stale, smelling of rust, mold, and rotting wood. You're wrapped in silence, but every creak feels like a voice. Every gust, a whisper of something watching. You scream for help, but your voice dies in the insulation. Ted may have waited for someone to come back. Someone who promised to return, but never did. Outside the trailer, searchers found footprints. At least 2 sets, but they stopped halfway down the hill. Vanished. And then, the bodies of Bill and Jackie were found. Miles apart. Burned. Broken. Face down in the snow. What were they running from? And why did they split up? What makes a group of grown men, close friends, split up in the middle of a freezing forest, with no light, no signal, and something watching them from the trees? 2 of them were found, but they weren't together. They weren't fighting the cold. They were fleeing something much worse. Jackie Hewitt and Bill Sterling were the closest of the group. Bill was the gentle soul, always clutching a Bible. Jackie followed his lead, soft-spoken, deeply trusting, emotionally tethered to routine. Jackie didn't like loud places. Bill didn't like change. Neither of them would walk off into a storm, unless something terrified them more than frostbite. They were found weeks after Ted, far from the trailer, even farther from their car. Jackie's spine was discovered under brush. Scattered bones, torn clothing, a shoe with the laces still tied. Bill was face down in a shallow ditch, half frozen, arms stretched outward like he was crawling. What made them leave the trailer and walk in the opposite direction of help? What fear pushes you so deep into the woods? You'd rather die in the dark than go back? They were last seen at 10 p.m., laughing after the game, high on victory. They stopped at a convenience store on their way home, bought Hostess pies, chocolate milk, and a map. Gary left the change in his pocket. Mike told the clerk, "Big game tomorrow. Gotta rest up." Everything felt normal. But hours later, their car was parked on a logging road in the Sierra Nevadas. Why drive uphill into snow at night? None of them liked the cold. None of them were impulsive. One theory, they were following someone, or being followed. Investigators said something chilling. There's no logical reason they'd abandon the car. It wasn't stuck. They could have turned back, walked down to town. Instead, they climbed higher, deeper, and split up. That's not disorientation. That's fear. Deliberate fear. As if someone told them, "You have to hide. You have to run." As if they heard something, or saw someone, and scattered like prey. It's pitch black. Snow falling in heavy sheets. Your breath turning to ice. The crunch of boots, too many to count. Twigs snap behind you. Footsteps? No, they're too heavy. Too slow. Something's there. Watching. You feel Jackie's hand on your back. Trembling. Bill whispers a prayer. You don't scream. You can't. Because whatever's out there already knows where you are. And then, a light flickers in the trees. Not white. Not red. Blue, pulsing. They run. The autopsy found no injuries. No bruises. No defensive wounds. Just exposure. They froze. But why did they split? Why did they head in different directions? One search dog circled a patch of woods 3 times, and stopped. No scent trail beyond it, like something swallowed them whole. Locals whispered about the mountain whisperer, a ghost, a shadow, a sound that lures men off paths. But these weren't stories anymore. This was real, and 2 boys were still missing. Weeks passed. Families begged for answers. And then, a hiker made a chilling call. He'd found shoes, 2 sets, side by side, placed gently near the riverbank. And near them, a torn note, scribbled in childlike handwriting. 6 words. "We didn't want to go up." Who wrote it? What if the last person to see your loved one was a man no one could find? No ID, no full name, just a story, and a promise. "I'll be right back." But he never returned. And neither did they. Gary wasn't like the others. He was different. And that difference may have saved him. Or doomed them all. He was 25. A former U.S. Army serviceman. Schizophrenia diagnosis. medication-dependent but stable, social, sharp, protective. He was the leader of the group when things got uncertain. And when things got dark, they trusted Gary to get them home. But Gary was never found. Gary's tennis shoes were discovered inside the trailer, the same trailer where Ted Weiher died wrapped in army blankets. Shoes off, food untouched, windows broken from the inside. Gary's shoes were dry. So where did he go? Why would he leave them behind? And more chillingly, who was wearing them? Joseph Shones, 55, driving up the same remote road the boy's car was later found on. He told police, "My car got stuck in the snow. I tried pushing it, then had chest pain." He lay in the front seat, headlights on, engine running, waiting to die or be found. Around midnight he heard voices, and saw a group of people. 5 men, 1 woman, a baby, flashlights swaying, soft talking, then silence. He yelled for help. No one responded. The lights blinked out. The figures vanished into the trees. At dawn, his car started again. He drove home and called authorities. And then, the news broke. 5 boys missing. Same road, same night, same direction. But the police dismissed him. Said maybe he hallucinated during a diabetic episode. But here's the question. Why would a hallucination leave footprints? Because where Joseph pointed, searchers found tracks. 2 sets. Human, wandering uphill, then gone. The woman Joseph saw was never identified. No missing persons matched her. No baby was ever reported. But a year earlier, a woman had driven that same mountain road and vanished. Her car was found near the same trailhead. Inside, baby clothes, a cracked baby bottle, and a man's work boot. Was she connected? Or was the memory of her still echoing, pulling others into the mountain like a voice through fog? Was the woman and child a hallucination? A ghost? Or bait? The night Joseph saw them, it was dead silent. No birds, no wind, just the rhythmic hum of his truck's heater. And then, crunch, footsteps, a light, like someone swinging a flashlight side to side. But not toward him. Away. He yelled, coughed, turned his headlights to high beam, nothing. But in the fog, he swore he saw a face, pale, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like he wanted to scream, but didn't. Joseph leaned forward, hand on the horn. Then everything went dark. Gary was smart, military trained, used to surviving on rations, could read a map. So why didn't he bring help? Why didn't he leave a message? Why was his shoes found? But he never was. The others stayed behind. Ted died waiting. Jackie and Bill died running. But Gary vanished without a trace. If he made it out, why didn't he tell the families? If he didn't, where's his body? And if someone took him, why? Back at the trailer, an old wool jacket was found near a tree. Stuffed inside the pocket was a map, drawn in pencil, childlike handwriting, and marked with an X. Next to it, a half-burned photograph of 5 boys, but one face was scratched out. Not burned, scratched, with a message scrawled underneath. He wouldn't stop laughing. Who wrote it? And what did they see that made them run? What if the person you trusted most was never who you thought they were? What if the face you thought disappeared was hiding, watching, smiling? The photo they found had 5 boys, but only 4 faces. One was violently scratched out, and it wasn't Gary. They found it near the trailer, buried in snow, singed on the edges, half wet, half burned. But the damage wasn't from fire. Someone had taken a knife or something sharper and ripped into the image. Not torn, not accidental, scratched, over and over, until one boy's face was gone. At first they thought it was Gary, the one never found, the one whose shoes were left behind. But it wasn't Gary. It was Mike Madruga, the one who drove the car that night. Mike was quiet, protective, fiercely responsible. He never let his younger brother borrow his Mercury Montego. He never missed curfew, and he hated the cold. Mike was the driver. He had the keys. He had the plan. He had the responsibility to bring everyone home. So why was his face scratched out? Why did someone hate him? Why was he the only one found far away from the rest? Down the hill, face up, shoes missing, no signs of injury, like he laid down and never got back up, or like someone placed him there. A girl came forward after the news broke. She never gave her real name, just called herself Elle. She said she used to work at the Yuba City diner. Said the 5 boys used to come in late on Saturdays. Same booth, same order. But one night, only 4 showed up. I asked where Mike was, she said. And Gary said, we don't talk about Mike anymore. She thought it was a joke, until she saw the missing poster. And then she said something that changed everything. The last time I saw them, they were scared. They kept looking at the door, kept checking the time. And Gary was shaking, not nervous, terrified. When Mike's car was found, the authorities were confused. No tracks leading in, no tracks leading out. Locked, windows intact, tank half full. And the strangest thing? The driver's seat was pushed all the way back. Mike was average height, but whoever last drove the car had to be taller. Taller, like Gary. So why was Mike driving to the mountains, but someone else drove the car back up the trail? And what happened between the end of the basketball game and the moment the engine was turned off in the forest? Imagine 5 boys arguing on the side of a snowy road. One flashlight between them, no cell phones, just cold breath and confused voices. One says, we should turn back. Another says, we follow the lights. And Mike? He's gripping the keys, tears in his eyes, whispering, we can't go back. Someone pushes him. Snow crunches under boots. Flashlight hits the ground. No one moves. Then a single voice cuts through the dark. He lied to us. Then silence. That hand-drawn map with the pencil X? Investigators followed it. It didn't lead to the trailer. Didn't lead to town. It led to a shack. An old ranger station. Condemned. Boarded up for years. Inside, a mattress. A rotted blanket. A burned diary. Most of the pages were gone. But one entry remained, scrawled in thick pencil. Mike wouldn't listen. He thought we could trust him. We were wrong. And beneath it, a handprint, small, bloody, pressed against the page. 1 month after the last body was found, Mike's parents got a call. An unknown number. No name. The voice? Male. Shaking. Crying. For words. Then the line went dead. It wasn't supposed to happen. They tried to trace the call. No luck. No signal origin. Was it Gary? Was it someone else? Or was it the last echo of something that refused to stay buried? The scratched-out photo, the handprint, the diary, all pointed in one direction. But what police found next, hidden deep inside Mike's Mercury trunk, was something they never released to the public. Until now, a single envelope, inside a photograph of 6 boys, and none of them were smiling. What if you were never told the full story? What if there was one more person that night? Someone no one talks about, someone every photo left out, someone who was there, but was never supposed to be remembered? The car held 5. The news said 5. But in that photograph, there were 6 boys, and the 6th face was gone. They found it inside Mike's trunk, in a sealed envelope, taped shut, dated 3 days before the boys disappeared. It was water-damaged, creased, but clear enough to see Mike, Gary, Ted, Jackie, Bill, and one more, a boy in the background. No name, no smile, eyes wide, like he wasn't part of the moment, like he didn't belong. His face had been scrubbed out, not burned, not blurred, scrubbed, like someone used an eraser until the paper tore. Months before the boys disappeared, Gary's case manager at the VA center filed a report. It never made the news. It never reached the families. But the report said something chilling. Gary has become increasingly anxious about someone he calls the shadow boy, claims this individual follows him from group to group but doesn't speak. When asked to point him out, Gary always says, he doesn't show up for you. Only me. Psychotic break? Maybe. But when the report was revisited after the disappearances, the attending psychiatrist noted something in the margin. Possibility. Delusion is shared among peers. Group hysteria. They dismissed it until the photo surfaced. In the trailer where Ted died, investigators found a torn scrap of paper, written in pencil, folded inside a can of Vienna sausages. Just 5 words. We didn't bring him. It wasn't signed. But the handwriting matched Gary's notebook. Who was him? The 6th boy? Or something else? And if they didn't bring him, how did he get there? One retired detective who worked the case back in '78 came forward decades later. He had a manila folder in his garage, stamped, classified, internal review only. Inside, photos, map sketches, interview transcripts, most redacted. But one transcript stood out. An unnamed forest ranger, interviewed 5 weeks after the last body was found. His words, I saw a kid, maybe 17, maybe younger, dirty, real pale, no shoes, just watching from the trees. I yelled. He didn't move, just stared. Thought it was one of the missing boys. I chased him for maybe 30 seconds. He vanished. But here's the thing, he didn't run. He just turned and was gone, like a shadow fading. He never filed a report. They told him to forget it, said the families had suffered enough. So he did, until the 6th face reappeared. Picture it. A snow-covered trail, empty woods, sky dimming to ash. The wind is still. You feel watched. You turn and see a boy, too still, too clean for how deep into the forest you are. He's barefoot. His feet don't sink into the snow. He's staring, not at you, through you. You blink, and he's gone. But his footprints, they never existed. After the 6th face surfaced, so did the theories. Some believed the boys picked up a hitchhiker, someone they knew, someone unstable. Others whispered about shared delusions, folie à plusieurs, madness shared among a group. But one theory was never spoken aloud in public, only whispered among the search teams, that the boys didn't run from an attacker. They ran from a presence, something they couldn't understand, something that made them forget logic, warmth, food, even their own safety, like something was pulling them up the mountain, one by one, away from help, away from each other. In 2019, a cold case researcher revisiting the Yuba 5 stumbled upon a flea market in Susanville, California. Among the vintage postcards and rusted lanterns was an old tackle box. Inside it, a crumpled napkin, stained, mildewed, tucked between fishing lures and an expired can of beans. Scrawled across it in blue ink, the kind used in '70s military hospitals. We thought he was imaginary, until he smiled. We followed him. We shouldn't have. There was no name, no date, just a location scribbled in the corner, under the fire tower. But here's the thing. There is no fire tower listed in the Plumas National Forest maps. Not now, not then, except one does appear on a military survey grid from 1963, and it was decommissioned in 1971. Collapsed, gone. So who wrote the note? And how did they know about the 6th face? The tower and the fear? There's one more place the police never searched, because it wasn't on the maps, because it wasn't supposed to exist. The foundation still stands, concrete cracked open like bone, charred timbers, moss growing over iron, and inside, beneath a pile of snow-dusted rubble, they found a backpack, with something still breathing inside it. What if the thing that haunted them wasn't human? What if the one they trusted was leading them to something buried in the dark? Underneath a collapsed fire tower, where no one was supposed to go, they found a backpack, still zipped, still dry, and inside, something breathing. The tower wasn't listed on modern records. Not even old hiking logs mentioned it. Only a 1963 military survey, buried in a forgotten archive. When investigators followed the coordinates from the napkin note, They found the skeletal remains of the old structure. Moss-choked beams, nails sticking out like broken teeth, a twisted metal ladder half swallowed by the earth. Everything was silent, except for the wind and the click of a Geiger counter, because what the military didn't disclose. The site was once part of an abandoned surveillance experiment, involving isolation, cold, and a rotating test group of psychiatric patients, some of them veterans, just like Gary Mathias. Beneath the collapsed watch platform, tucked into a narrow crawlspace, they found it, a blue backpack, frayed straps, U.S. Army issue, but brand new. Inside, one unopened can of C rations, pocket Bible, a photo of the 5 boys, folded in half, and something strange, a sealed glass jar, containing a lock of hair, and a fingernail, taped to it, a note written in blocky, childlike handwriting. Don't let him find the others. He knows what we did. He's not like us. No fingerprints, no DNA match, but the writing matched the one found in Ted's trailer. And then, a final, gut-wrenching clue. Under forensic light, inside the flap of the backpack, a message was scratched with a safety pin. We trusted the wrong one. He said we'd be safe. He lied. It's midnight. The road is covered in snow. The boys are yelling, not in anger, but panic. Mike wants to turn around. Gary wants to keep going. Jackie is crying. Ted is silent. Bill is muttering prayers. And the 6th boy? He's in the back seat, smiling, not blinking, not speaking. The flashlight flickers. The car stalls. The air feels wrong. And the last thing Mike says before the engine cuts out, "Who is that?" Here's what we now know. The boys didn't just get lost. They weren't just afraid of the cold. They were manipulated. Someone or something led them into the forest. And not all of them realized it until it was too late. Gary had military training. He knew the terrain. But he was also the one most vulnerable to suggestion. What if the 6th person wasn't a stranger, but a hallucination shared by all of them? Folie à cinq. A shared psychosis. A collective unraveling. Triggered by fear, cold, and something they believed was real. Or, what if he wasn't imagined at all? What if the 6th boy was a real person? Someone erased from the system. Someone with a reason to lead them into the woods. To punish. To destroy. To disappear. Ted survived nearly 13 weeks. Without food. Without heat. But when they examined his body, there was something else. Traces of pine resin in his lungs. Which meant he'd been breathing near fire. Someone had made fire nearby. Not inside the trailer. Not by Ted. Someone had survived longer. And left him to die. Gary Mathias was never found. His body. His clothing. His trail gone. But that backpack? That map? That diary? They tell a different story. Gary may not have been the victim. He may have been the last one standing. And he may have chosen silence. Out of guilt. Out of fear. Or because he never left that mountain. Only a part of him did. Ted's mother, in an interview years later, said, "He wasn't afraid of the dark. He was afraid of being left in it." Mike's sister still keeps his car keys, wrapped in cloth, in a drawer that doesn't open anymore. And Gary's father? He left his porch light on, for 26 years, just in case he came home. But he never did. Do you think the 6th person was real, or a shadow of something darker? Was this a shared hallucination, or a planned disappearance? Comment below. We want to know what you believe. And if this story haunted you, subscribe to The Veil of Secret for more true stories that were never meant to surface.